So, good day, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this month's fireside chat of Startup Grind Luxembourg. Together with today we have Damien Forest. Hello, Damien.
Steve.
Nice to have you here. Before we start, a few housekeeping notes about Startup Grind. Startup Grind, we are one of the leading global startup communities in the world. And our aim is to change the world one company at a time, one startup at a time. And for that, we give it to us as a vision to give companies everywhere the education and opportunities they need to build, grow, and scale their companies. And our values are very simple. We believe in making friends, not contacts. We believe in giving first, not taking. And we believe in helping others before helping yourself. And now, also, if you, dear viewer, dear live viewer, would like to ask or comment, just use the Q&A questions and we will pick it up from there. But now, without further ado, Damien, could you tell us in a few words, just in a nutshell, what Praxy AI is and what it is doing?
Sure. So very nice to be with Startup Grind today. So I'm Damien Forest. I'm the CEO of Praxy AI. Short video is better than a long speech. I can introduce you what we do at Proxy AI. Our mission is to develop AI models for medical language understanding. You should be able to see the screen now. When you go see the doc, you probably notice that he's keyboarding a lot on his computer. You may have the impression that he's not listening to you. For the physicians, the administrative burden, so all the clinical documentation, is the first cause of burnout for them, and they spend on average 2 hours per day to make the clinical notes. The other pain points that we address is that most of their notes are not structured. It's just plain text, which cannot be used for therapeutic monitoring, and it cannot be used either for clinical research, which, by the way, is a 50 billion euro industry worldwide. And the last pain point we address is that we need data to accelerate diagnosis or prognostics as well, or customization of treatments. For diseases, it can take 5 to 6 years to be diagnosed, basically because we don't have the right data at hand. So just a quick video to show what we do. The main product is what we call an ambient AI assistant that will take notes for you. It will not only take notes, it will structure the information. And it's on smartphone, but on desktop, physical consultation, teleconsultation, and it structures all the information, history of illness. We have also some, let's say, performance guarantee with an anti-hallucination system built for medical language understanding, which will help the physician to know what he should check. And all of this is adapted per medical specialty. So there's a huge data model with 2,000 typical data for all the medical specialties. If you're a GP, if you're a pedopsychiatrist, if you are a nephrologist, you don't have the same data model at all, of course. So I'll keep it short, just to explain a bit of our business model, and then I can answer your question. We focus on Europe for sovereignty of data, but most importantly, economic sovereignty. And our go-to-market is mostly to be integrated as a wide brand component in existing software.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. But that's today. But how did it start? I mean, we met some years before. And the other thing is, what made you go the extra mile? What made you become, let's say, an entrepreneur? What was it was triggering you to go the extra mile to do the journey?
Yeah, so it's not my first entrepreneurial journey. It's actually well, the third, let's say, actual startup. There were a few one before. Previous startup was designing autonomous robots for security and safety monitoring, and the first was water machine to replace mineral water. So at first it was alternative to let's say plastic bottles, alternative to human guarding, and now alternative to the lack of doctors actually. So I chose to go to healthcare. The idea didn't come from me, so I have 45 shareholders now. Most of them are medical doctors, and I simply asked them what are the pain points that we can help you solve with AI. Documentation seemed pretty obvious. At first, we wanted to do like Amazon Echo that would be put in the doctor's office and listen to the conversations. Well, finally, we realized that just web apps were more easy to develop, and that was 2 years ago. So it's just still just the start, but in 2 years now we have almost 30 clients in 5 countries. But we did
Okay.
3,000 days of R&D in 2 years, so of course that's not straightforward.
Uh-huh. But if we take it a little bit further away, as you mentioned, it's not your first entrepreneurial journey, but what made you decide to go this? Now, maybe not for Praxi AI, but for the previous one. Because I mean, I guess you had a normal job like everybody. You started out, and what was the trigger of saying, "Okay, no, I want to go myself. I want to be my own boss."
Uh, yeah, it's what drives me well in this free project is mostly the social and economic impact that I can have, let's say, designing new products. Well, you could wonder if you could do the same, not being an entrepreneur or well, being in a company. Actually, I worked 9 or close to 10 years in consulting, advising maybe the biggest firms in France in the CAC 40, L'Oréal, Danone, Schneider Electric, etc. I had some impact, but you don't, let's say, maybe only in 30% of the cases you actually have, let's say, final operational impact. Who I worked on very pragmatic things like restructuring companies that were in economic difficulties. So if you're an entrepreneur, you are more fragile because you have less means. But still, if you have enough resilience, persistence, you will have an impact. If you don't get lost on the way, of course. But yes, you will have more concrete impact well, on the pain points that, or the problems that you are trying to solve.
That's right. And did you go do it first on your own, or did you have a team or other friends and fools who joined you? How was it? Was it immediately? Did you had clients or customers already in mind? I mean, for the first one or the second one or the third one, um, how did you go about it? Because the audience is very always interested in seeing, okay, what is triggered on the one hand, and how did you go about it? Because it's always the trigger and then doing it, which is the hardest step. How, oh, from your, if you look back on your various experiences, what would you say was a little bit assisted you in making it, in jumping?
Well, the journey to have the first customer it takes some time actually. If you want to develop a technological product, and most startups are about technological product, uh, you need to have a product to put in the end of your very first customers. Before I design autonomous robot, and it's very long to have the robot being really autonomous before being able to put it on the field. It takes several years actually. So in our case, the go-to-market strategy has changed. The product not so much. Go-to-market strategy has changed from the very first idea. We thought we will directly sell the software to the physician, but we quickly realized that it it was way too costly because they don't change their habits that easily. The current software provider are doing everything possible for them not to change their software, of course, etc. Yes, we change the go-to-market strategy, but actually, yes, the journey is kind of like having to walk in a tunnel for 6 months because we starting developing the product in February 2023, just to have something that's testable and that's, let's say, sustainable also in September 2023. And for that, I took, let's say, what I call geek engineers, meaning passionate, from school, so 3 engineers. Now we have 15 engineers, but I started with 3 engineers from, yes, and beginning of 2023, and we had to develop 6 months to have something that we could put on the end of customers and then be able to raise some money, etc. Yes, so you first thing is that you need to have some battle plan. Of course, you don't do it randomly. You need to know who will be your first customer. If these are not the ones that will generate revenue, at least these are the ones that will help you validate that the product is taking the pain point that you want to address. There are many specific things about our strategy. We developed our own AI models. We are not just reselling open AI models, which is not the case of many startups that may have done more revenue, but which is less sustainable. So we have probably a very singular strategy, which makes that now we have been chosen by the biggest software editors in France to integrate our technology in their software. So that was rather a technological choice. Whereas we could have done, let's say, customer product shows, which is I take OpenAI APIs, I make a nice product around it, and I go sell it. It's not the strategy that we chose.
Okay, great. So, I mean, on the other hand, on the one thing, you need something to put into the hands of the potential users, clients, customers. But how hard was it in general, not only for this one, but if you also look back in general, to find those, let's not call them guinea pig, but beta users who are open to say, okay, we take it on board, we use it, and we give you feedback, and we are open that okay, it's not perfect, and so on. Was that difficult, or was it a little bit depending
Yeah.
with your experience? It changed a little bit.
Yeah. Well, no matter the industry, because I did water machines for restaurant owners, security robots for airports, nuclear plants, energy plants, and now doctors, or even not just the doctor, but the dietitians, the nurses, etc. You have what's there's some theoretic, well, some books about it. You have the early adopters at first. There are not many, maybe just 1% or even sometimes less. So if it's just 1% of the doctor, obviously it's not that easy to find because you will need to contact more doctors to find them or to have the right people in the network that you can let's say use to encounter more. So probably I met now with 2,500 doctors in 2 years, or even more than that. And yes, a few hundreds are really several hundreds are really early adopters. So you should leverage on them to improve your product. But meaning, as a founder, you need to be technical, product oriented, but also, of course, spend a significant amount of time, maybe 20% of your time at least, meeting potential customers, of course.
Okay, that's one thing. But when you get feedback, would you have, I shall say, not a recommendation, but with insights? What would you say? You get the feedback from these users, these early adapters, and so on. And how do you make sure that it's a valuable feedback, that the features they are requesting are not just nice to have? Because sometimes the features which are requested make sense, but maybe not here, not at that time, or not in the lifetime of the product or the service on the
Yeah.
roadmap. How did you go? How would you go about that, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, every different prospect will give you different expectations. The cardiologist, for instance, will want something that automates what's called the European Society of Cardiology recommendation. But yeah, it's a limited segment. Do you go for it or not? Some years ago, I read a book called the Lean Product Playbook, which is kind of useful in terms of framework, because you can have let's say you have a feature, let's say, and you have the customer satisfaction level, and you need to find the features that have, let's say, it's the importance of the feature on the axis, and why axis is the level of satisfaction. So you should find the features that have the best or highest combination of dissatisfaction and importance. Importance, you have various way to rate it actually, because if you just make a feature for the psychologists, they don't have a lot of money to pay. Is it relevant? So it's always many questions to be answered. So I think in our GitHub we have like 4,000 stories closed, and it's continuous prioritization to choose the feature that will have the, let's say, the more impact, so the most common denominator. But usually it's no point to have something like that will increase the accuracy of the performance by 2%. It's not enough. Yeah, so you need to solve actual pain points. For instance, now we reflect on launching a medical chat GPT inside the hospital, hosted on the hospital premises, because we noticed that the doctors were actually putting actual data on ChatGPT, which is forbidden in France. But it means that it answers the needs because they use ChatGPT to provide the medical recommendation, which can be wrong and hallucinated. So, yes, you need to identify the pain points, and then in this case, the medical ChatGPT, for instance, you can sell it to every hospital, so it has it's a global need. That's this kind of reasoning that you need to have. Can you scale it? Yeah.
Okay, and that's very interesting. And on the journey, you also lost some of the early adopters because they had expectations, and you didn't. I mean, your journey, your vision didn't fit with them. Did you then part ways, or did you try to say, okay, but okay, we can find a way in order to ease your pains? But another way is, how did you make the selection of the target market of
Yeah.
uh, which you would like to address? Because I guess they also changed over time. Starting with one, then over time you notice, yeah, okay, that's good, but the early ones are not the ones would like to target. We would like to target others, and so on.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, you might be tempted to keep everyone, but that may not be possible, of course, because if you tell them, okay, we do it in 2 months, but if you take 12 months, indeed you may lose them. They can go for competing solution, but you may not lose them. That's possible. You don't know in advance. Uh, we try to do, let's say, some project management oriented. So if they request a feature, we reply, of course. So we say you have requested like 5 features. This one we will do in March, let's say. This other one we will restudy, etc. So try to be rigorous, of course, on your project management and schedule. That seems basic, but you still need to do it, even if it's a startup. Um, and yes, you cannot answer all the needs, definitely, because some will not give you much return on investment, or definitely not faster enough. Yes, so it's a difficult choice. You still every week actually need to keep reprioritizing.
Okay, and then a little bit in the same idea, as you cannot do generally not do everything or cater to every need. How did you, which strategy did you approach? Did you go by partnering with other suppliers in order, or did you say, okay, you, for example, the practitioner, he has already part of a solution and we will integrate with it? How did you go about that in order now for catering
Yeah,
your solution? Because I guess that your solution is one part of the global solution.
yeah, yeah. So what I measure is my first KPI, let's say, is the market share that we take, uh, or also versus the market share that we lose, because we may lose some cases. So far, we haven't lost any significant deal. Let's say you can have single users, but we sell an indirect way to software editors. CGDing, for instance, has 80,000 users, uh, meaning they won't deploy 80,000 users overnight. But if you are their partner, you eventually could take this market share. Partnering with them, so it's kind of co-development or strategic partnerships. Same with hospitals, you can promise royalties to hospitals for making such co-development. Yes, we try to have the most impact, but having the most impact means getting the more users, which are healthcare professional. So far, the software editors partners that we have, they count for like more than 100,000 users, which is significant. There are only 1 million healthcare professional in France. It's possibly already 10%, not yet deployed. So that's how, in my opinion, how you guess the most impact. However, yes, you could go direct for 3, 4, 500 users. Yeah, but that's not 100,000. Um,
Okay, and now coming a little bit to the revenue model. I mean, without going into details, no figures and so on, but I guess in the beginning you had an idea, an approach, and today you have the revenue model is different. The revenue, how shall I say, the percentage of the various incomes is different than you expected in the beginning, or is it exactly as you expected in the beginning?
um,
The
it's
distribution, I mean,
yeah,
the
yeah.
distribution.
The well, you have the, let's say, the end customer price. We chose to be the potential benefit for the end user is important. Some doctors will save 1 hour or even 2 hours because if they analyze or synthesize manually a patient record, it can take them 1 hour. Um, and if you take like 5, 10, 15% of the revenue of the doctors, that's significant amount per month. That can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 euros, and we sell that. You could say that your price is just 70 euros, so 10% of the saving. So this hasn't changed much. It's just that the market, it's very seldom that the market is new. There's no one. Actually, there was already Microsoft with Nuance, company they acquired for 20 billion euros. So our pricing is kind of aggressive towards them, but we need it because Microsoft has huge means and it has what's called linked sell, meaning if you buy this, I give you a discount on this, on that. Yes, so and then if it's indirect, we have to leave, let's say, maybe most of the values, but that's still an unanswered question because for us, if the product is sold as an option, for us it will be very long for 1 million healthcare professional to buy it, of course. Whether if they integrate it in the base price, you have your medical software, but AI is included in it. Uh, then the growth will be much more faster, of course. So for us, it's better if the price is low, it's okay. The penetration is more important. So yes, we may take 10 times less, let's say, margin or value than Microsoft, but if it goes fast enough and we met, it's not something like buying the market shares. We are still profitable, a low price, because we made very small AI models with 100 million parameters instead of 1 billion. So our inference cost is also pretty low. So yes, the technological strategy and the go-to-market strategy are linked, of course. Yeah. So, but that yes, we had actually we had the idea from the very start. It didn't change that much.
Okay, that's great. That's interesting. And on the other hand, looking at the market, I mean, you touch a little bit upon that it's kind of a regulated market you're operating. I mean, the practitioners, there are some regulations they have to comply with. You are now, if I understood it well, in France, expanding in France. And how it's about going more global, I mean, in Europe or overseas? Is that something which you would say, okay, we will, we have it on the plan, in the medium term plan? Or is it something you say, okay, no, it's a little bit longer term because we first want to consolidate and so on, and then move forward?
Yeah, no, we want to go relatively fast, but fast for healthcare is not fast for selling a fast moving consumer product. Of course, it's a slow industry. It's even actually the sales cycle can even be longer than selling an autonomous robot for protecting nuclear plants. That's an actual comparison. So it's a very slow industry. But still, we had the willingness to be not global but European at first. So we have clients in Belgium, Spain, Portugal. And yes, it has some cost to address this market, but you shouldn't be too late. Belgium is relatively easy to address from France, at least for the Wallonian part, and we have partnerships to train the model in Flemish. Same for Switzerland, we are training a model in Swiss German. So actually, it is the European market is quite fragmented, and training for each language is kind of a barrier to entry. So if we cross this barrier to entry relatively fast, it's okay. We can take market share. Then actually it's harder to have salespeople or business development people than R&D people, and they are relatively expensive. If you want a business development manager in Switzerland, it's actually very expensive. Same for Sweden, etc. So then that's the most difficult part, I would say, to have the right people to make, and this can cost you a lot. To have the right people for the business development per market is the most challenging part.
And regarding the resources you put in, I mean, when I mean resources, it's logistical, operationals, financials, and so on. Um, Guess in the beginning you had some expectations, and over time they adapted. And how did you cope with that? Are you also in a constantly trying to reevaluate your needs in resources and then to adapt it? And if so, how difficult was it, or is it eventually, to in to adapt the resources? When I say resources, it's global. It's HR, it's logistic, R&D, operational, financial, and so on.
Yeah,
Without going into detail.
yeah. Actually, the most costly resources is computing to train the models. It can be even higher than your staff, than your R&D staff. So you can either raise money, but you can also try to be smart and use public data centers, try to have partnerships. Say, I give you this data set, I give you this model, open source it. That's what, or the hospitals buy a huge data center, but don't use it at night, etc. So we are trying to be, we have spent like 400,000 euros in credits, but not giving away these euros. We had them for free. Meaning we would have to raise that's the equivalent amount. Yes, so you should be. And this you don't know in advance, indeed, because if you fail the training of the model, you have to do it 3 times, and it's not 20k euros. It's finally 60k euros to train the model, and you don't know it in advance, even if you are very smart. You don't know. So that's the first thing. Indeed, you don't know how many R&D or sales staff you may need. Let's say by chance we have some financial or fiscal incentive in France to hire R&D people, so that if you have the incentive, obviously it's easier to hire more R&D people in this case. You should be able to use them, but yes, building medical AI is yes, R&D intensive, so you need people. But that's what you said earlier. If you have 10 people in R&D, you can build these 150 features. If you have more, if you have 25 people in R&D, maybe you can do 200 features, probably less. And then maybe the extra features will deliver less value, less impact. So it's a choice. You don't need to be too many people, in my opinion. Especially in R&D, because you still need to manage them.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Coming to the end of our fireside chat, as usual, there's the final question. If you have a magic ball, you have a glass ball where you could see into the future, and not only that, but you would have a magic wand. And with this magic wand, you could click or slightly tip on the glass ball, and you would see what you would like to see. What would it be that you would like to see in this glass ball for the future? Which developments or eventually which hurdles you would like to see taken away?
Yeah, okay. I should give the my wish. Yeah, that's let's say really part of our vision. We want to have let's say as much co-development partnership between European players, well, in healthcare at least as possible, because that's this way that we are stronger. Uh, Europe is fragmented, and yes, but we still have the best engineers in every country. We have this language barrier. So, yeah, so the most, let's say, long-term partnership we can build in with other software companies, or AI companies, the majority is here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Damien, for sharing with us your journey and looking forward to the further development of Praxy AI and maybe another fireside chat. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, and be happy to meet you in Luxembourg maybe.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.